Most people think Tom Bombadil is just a quirky side character, a jolly, singing eccentric who wears a battered hat and talks in rhymes, a harmless detour in the Fellowship's journey, maybe even a mistake, something Tolkien threw in and later regretted. But that's not what he really is. Tom Bombadil is the most terrifying entity in all of Middle-earth. Not because he destroys things, not because he craves power, but because of what he reveals about the nature of reality itself, and because no one, not Gandalf, not Sauron, not the Valar who shaped the very mountains, can explain where he came from. He is the one answer Middle-earth cannot give. And once you understand what that means, you'll never read Tolkien the same way again.
Here is the question that has haunted Tolkien scholars for decades. Who or what is Tom Bombadil? At first glance, it seems like a simple lore gap, a fun mystery, the kind of thing you debate at a dinner table. But dig deeper, and the mystery becomes something else entirely, something almost metaphysical. Every being in Middle-earth has an origin. The Ainur, the angelic powers, were sung into existence by Iluvatar before time began. The Elves awoke by a starlit lake. Men rose with the dawn. Even Sauron, even Morgoth, they have a place in the cosmic hierarchy, a role in the music that shaped all things. Tom Bombadil has none of that. He precedes the mythology. He exists outside the story that contains everyone else. And when you realize that, you realize something deeply unsettling. Middle-earth may not be as complete or as controlled as Tolkien or Iluvatar intended. To understand why Tom Bombadil is so extraordinary, you need to understand how Tolkien's universe works at its most fundamental level. In the beginning, before stars, before Earth, before the concept of before, there was Iluvatar, the One, the source of all being. And Iluvatar created the Ainur, vast, angelic intelligences, each one a reflection of some aspect of his own thought. Music, fire, stone, shadow, growth, memory. He gave them a theme, and they sang. That song, the Ainulindale, the music of the Ainur, was the universe. Every mountain, every ocean, every age of the world, every joy and tragedy of every soul that would ever live, all of it was encoded in that primordial harmony. And when the song was complete, Iluvatar showed the Ainur a vision of what they had created. Then he spoke the word Ea, let these things be, and the vision became real. Think of it like a blueprint becoming a building. The music was the plan, Ea was the construction, and the Ainur who chose to descend into this new world, to shape it, to live within it, became the Valar and Maiar, sub-creators, stewards, Tolkien's version of gods and angels. Everything in Middle-earth flows from this. Every river, every power, every creature traces back to the music. Even corruption, even Morgoth's discord was part of the song, woven in by Iluvatar's deeper design. Nothing exists outside the score. Except Tom Bombadil.
Tolkien himself said it in letters that most casual fans never read. He called Tom Bombadil a deliberately mysterious figure. He said Tom represents a particular embodying of pure, original, natural spirit, older than the Elves, older than the Valar, older than the music itself. Older than the music itself. Let that settle. The music of the Ainur is the act of creation. It is not a prelude to the universe. It is the universe, expressed as sound and then made real. If Tom predates the music, then Tom predates reality as Tolkien designed it. He exists before the blueprint, before the building, before the architect put pen to paper. And here is where the twist lives, the thing that changes everything. Tom is not simply old, he is uncreated. Every other being was made, sung into potential, shaped by Valar, awakened by Iluvatar's design. But Tom was not sung, Tom was not shaped, Tom was simply there, a fact that the universe discovered about itself rather than a thing the universe produced. Tolkien used a specific phrase for him in his letters. He called Tom the spirit of the vanishing Oxford and Berkshire countryside. But in the mythology, he placed him as something even stranger, A remnant, perhaps, of something that existed before Iluvatar's creative act. A being who belongs to no category because the categories were created after him. Think of it this way. Imagine a painting. The artist controls everything inside the frame, every color, every shadow, every character. But imagine that before the artist ever touched the canvas, there was already a small figure in the corner. Not painted, not sketched, just there. A presence that predates the brush, the paint, the intention itself. That is Tom Bombadil.
Now consider what this means for the ring. When Frodo places the one ring on his finger, he vanishes. Every other creature who wears it is pulled into the shadow world, the unseen realm where Sauron's power operates, where ringwraiths exist as half-real horrors. The ring bends reality around the wearer, binding them to Sauron's will. But when Tom Bombadil puts on the ring, nothing happens. He doesn't vanish. He doesn't become a slave to Sauron's power. He slips the ring on his finger, holds it up to the light, and laughs. Then he hands it back to Frodo, as if it were a trinket, a bauble, a thing of no particular weight. And this is where things get darker. Most people read this scene as charming, whimsical, but what it actually reveals is terrifying. The ring has no purchase on Tom because the ring operates through desire. It amplifies what you want. It chains you through your own hunger for power, for survival, for love, for preservation. It is the ultimate weapon of corruption because it uses you against yourself. But Tom wants nothing. Not in a passive way, not in a monk's disciplined detachment. Tom is not suppressing desire. He simply exists in a state that is prior to desire itself, a mode of being so fundamental, so untouched by the architecture of wanting and fearing that the ring cannot find a handhold. It is like trying to corrupt a river by whispering to it. The river does not hear, not because it is strong, but because it is a different kind of thing entirely. And here is the consequence that almost no one discusses. If Tom is immune to the ring, is he immune to Iluvatar himself? Tolkien implies it. In his letters, he wrote that Tom would not be corrupted by the ring, but also, and this is the part that chills, that if Sauron won and covered the world in darkness, Tom would simply fade away. Not be defeated, not be enslaved, just cease to engage, withdraw into himself, into whatever he is, until the world moved on or ended. He cannot be owned, but neither can he truly act. He exists outside the story, which means he can observe it, he can interact with it at the edges, but he cannot change it. He is a witness, not a participant, an ancient presence pressed against the glass of the narrative, watching events unfold with bright eyes and a yellow hat, singing songs in a world that was never quite his to save.
And this is the truth that makes Tom Bombadil more haunting than any Dark Lord. He is freedom made real, absolute, total, uncorrupted freedom. He cannot be controlled, cannot be seduced, cannot be destroyed in any conventional sense. He is immune to every force that governs Middle-earth, the rings of power, the will of the Valar, the shadow of Morgoth, the entropy of ages. And it means nothing. Because freedom without purpose is just another form of absence. Tom exists in a state of perfect, joyful, total irrelevance to the fate of the world. He saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow not because he is their guardian or their champion, but the way you might stop to move a beetle off a hot stone. A passing kindness, an impulse of the moment. He feels no obligation to the struggle against Sauron because the struggle against Sauron is to him a local conflict in a very young world. When the Council of Elrond considers giving Tom the ring for safekeeping, the most powerful, wisest minds in Middle-earth float the idea that he might be the answer. Gandalf shuts it down immediately. Tom would lose the ring, Gandalf says. He simply wouldn't consider it important enough to protect. He might give it away. Think about what that means. The one being who cannot be corrupted by the ring is also the one being who cannot be trusted to care about the ring. His immunity is identical to his indifference. His freedom is identical to his powerlessness within the story. Tolkien was doing something profound here, something most fantasy writers never attempt. He created the most powerful character in his mythology and made him irrelevant, not as a failing, but as a philosophical statement.
Tom is what existence looks like before it becomes a story, before it acquires stakes and history and the terrible weight of meaning.
In a world built on the idea that power corrupts, that every great gift becomes a great temptation, Tom Bombadil is Tolkien's quiet argument that there is something older than power, something that power cannot reach. He is nature before it became resource, existence before it became purpose, joy before it needed justification. But Tolkien is too honest a thinker to make this purely comforting, because Tom's existence also poses a dark question. If such pure, uncorrupted being exists in the world, if Bombadil has always been there, singing in his valley, dancing with Goldberry, delighting in every leaf and stone, then why does suffering exist at all? Why did the elves fade? Why did men fall? Why did the ring ever need to be carried by a small, frightened hobbit across a world full of shadows? Tom doesn't intervene. He can't, or won't, or simply doesn't, and the distinction may not matter. He is the universe's proof that goodness can exist without consequence, that wonder can exist without responsibility, and that neither of those things will save you. He is the oldest thing, and the loneliest. Not because he has no one. He has Goldberry, he has his land, he has 10,000 years of songs, but because no one in the world he inhabits is quite the same kind of thing as he is. He is a category of one, an anomaly the universe never bothered to explain. And perhaps this is the thought that stays with you after you put the book down. Perhaps Tolkien left him unexplained on purpose, not as a failure of mythology, but as its most honest moment. Some things in a world, just as in our world, simply are. They precede every system of meaning we construct to contain them. They hum along at a frequency beneath our explanations, wearing a battered hat, singing a nonsense song. Ancient, free, unreachable, unknowable, and so present it almost hurts.
The last time we see Tom Bombadil in the main text of The Lord of the Rings, it is through a memory. As the hobbits ride back home after the War of the Ring, after everything, after Frodo has carried the ring into the fire and back out again, after the world has been remade, they pass near the borders of Tom's country, and they consider visiting him. But they don't. The world has changed. They have changed. They are not the same frightened travelers who stumbled into his house and ate his bread and heard him sing. They are veterans now, survivors. People with the kind of grief in their eyes that doesn't wash out. Tom would probably still be the same. He would still be singing, still dancing, still calling to Goldberry in the evening light. The War of the Ring would be to him what a season is to a mountain, a thing that passed, a particular quality of the wind. He will be singing when the last elf sails west. He will be singing, Tolkien implies, long after the stars themselves have shifted in their courses. He will be there at the ending of the world, not to witness it dramatically, not to fight or flee, but simply because he is there, because being there is and has always been the entirety of what he is. And I think that's why he haunts us, not because he is dark or threatening or tragic in any recognizable way, but because he shows us what it looks like to exist completely outside the story that gives everything else its meaning. Most of us are inside the story. We have our rings to carry, our shadows to flee, our small, desperate acts of courage in the dark. Tom Bombadil is what watches from the hills, old, awake, unafraid, and entirely, serenely, beyond our reach.